Tonight on the record, Donald Trump is here. The 2016 GOP frontrunner continuing to dominate nearly every poll. A new CNN poll out just today has Donald Trump way out in the lead, now 21 points ahead of any other candidate. But once again, Trump's words getting him in some hot water. The latest, a word Trump used to describe Hillary Clinton and her 2008 loss to President Obama. Some people calling that word vulgar. 2016 presidential candidate Donald Trump is on the phone to go on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I will say this right from the get-go. I've done a little research on it as well, and Jeff Greenfield, who was a political analyst for 30 years at ABC, CNN, and CBS, and also the term was used on NPR in a similar reference about the 1984 election with Ferraro and Mondale against Reagan. And that was just in 2011, and so it seems that that this time they are pro-Donald Trump on this whole issue, whether you're vulgar or not. So I guess that's a win for you.
Well, to me, it always meant to get beaten badly. I mean, and that's what happened with Hillary Clinton. She got beaten badly. But to me, that's really a reference to getting beaten and really, pretty decisively. And when I said it, nobody in the audience thought anything about it. They clapped. They didn't view that as being a horrible thing. And then all of a sudden, I get back in and people are calling about it. And, when they checked it out, some pretty quality people have been using that term over the years. So I think I probably skirted by that one, Greta. What do you think?
Well, I think so. But here's your problem, is that going in, it looks from the numbers, I mean, it looks like you are going to get the Republican nomination. A lot can happen between now and the convention next summer. But right now, your numbers are quite overwhelming, and you're winning. If you get the nomination, though, you're going to have a whole other thing to consider, and that's the independents. And your favorability with the independents, which is about 16% of the vote, is that your unfavorable right now is 59%. Are you going to have to sort of rethink your delivery, rethink the language you use, and especially in reference to women?
Well, my focus was on 17. We had a total of 17. Now we're down to 15 and then 14, and it's whittling down. And that's what's been my focus. And I really haven't gone after Hillary yet, and there's a lot to go after. She is very susceptible, I think, to, look, the job she's done is horrible. You don't get worse. So I think that's going to be, frankly, easier in some cases than some of the people I'm currently running against. But my focus has been on this. And if you look at the people that have attacked me, those people are out of the race or they've gone down to nothing. They're sitting in the race, but they're really down to nothing. So I'm fine with Hillary. I think that the last person, and I know this for a fact, the last person that she wants to be running against is me. And if you look at the CNN favorability numbers, one of the commentators on one of the shows today said he's never seen favorability numbers that have gone so high so fast. He's never seen that. I think people like me, Greta. I'm going to do a great job, but I think people like me, but they have to hear me.
Donald,
even you like me sometimes.
Yeah, Donald, you're likable, but I tell you, when I sort of gasp when I hear you making sort of bathroom jokes about Secretary Clinton, or anyone. It's like, and that's why I wonder is that when you have to deal with the independents in a general election, should you get the nomination, is that are you going to have to change your language a bit and appear what I would call more presidential?
Well, I think I'm presidential, and I think I've done presidential work. I built an incredible company. I've made great deals. I've had tremendous success, even in, with The Apprentice and with The Art of the Deal and many bestsellers. And I built one of the great real estate companies and some of the best assets in the world and very little debt and great cash flows. And, all of those things, which I talk about only because that's the kind of thinking our country needs, Greta. We have $19 trillion in debt, soon to be $21 trillion in debt. Trillion, hard to believe I'm even using that word, trillion in debt. And it's the kind of thinking, you can't have a politician doing it at this point. It's too far. They're all talk, they're no action. There's nobody knows politicians better than I do. I know all of them. And
all right, well, let me talk money with you. Let me talk money with you. A $1.1 trillion spending bill was passed last week by a GOP-controlled House and Senate, signed by a Democratic president. $1.1 trillion. A lot of controversy because it includes funding for Planned Parenthood, which has set many on fire who don't want Planned Parenthood to be funded. If you were president, what would you have done differently, or would you have just accepted this?
Well, I wouldn't have accepted it. I thought it was an outrage. In fact, you look at Franklin Graham, who I think is a fantastic guy, and so do you, and where he left the Republican Party over it, and having to do with Planned Parenthood, probably more, but probably having to do with everything, how that got passed. It's actually even more than 1.1. It's 1.15. And you look at how that thing got passed so quickly and so easily. And what was approved, I would have done a much different thing. I would have negotiated, but I would have started a year ago, Greta. You know, you can't just go in there one day and start. You have to go back to the basics, and you have to start much earlier. They passed this budget. Now, nothing will be done for 364 days, and then they'll have another budget coming up, and they'll pass it. And you can't do that. You have to start working from the day the last budget is passed. Now, you look at this bill, and it's an outrage. I was amazed that it passed, and it passed so easily and so quickly. I thought it was disgraceful. I understand exactly what Franklin Graham did. I thought it was disgraceful.
Why do you think that when candidates run for office at all levels of national office is that waste and fraud is never sort of front and center? I mean, you know, I would think that that would be such a popular topic because who likes waste and fraud?
Because they are controlled, all of the candidates, virtually every. I'm the only one self-funding. I'm putting up my own money. And every single candidate that's running is controlled by people that give them money, whether it's Bush or Rubio or any of them. And not to even single out the two, or Hillary Clinton more than anybody. She is totally controlled by people, and you think it's waste and fraud, but it's really not. It's really something beyond that. There are people, companies, countries that want the money to pass and to go a certain way. And they control these politicians. Now, look, I've been on the other side of it. You know, until 6 months ago, I never did this before. But I've been on the other side of it at the highest level. I gave $350,000 to the Republican Governors Association, and all of this, tremendous amounts of money over the years.
How are you going to change that? And how does the voter not know that as soon as, let's say that you become president, you're just not sort of get in the swing of things and do just business as usual?
Well, I'm going to change it because I owe nothing to nobody. I mean, I owe nothing to anybody. There's, nobody gave me money. I won't accept money. They didn't do that. It's a self-fund. It's the only one. I mean, I look at the kind of money being given. And by the way, people are calling me, wanting to put up big, big numbers for me. I don't want it, which is a little hard for me always because my whole life has been taking money. That's what I do. I make money. I'm telling people, no, I have no interest. People want to put up $5 million. They want to put up $7 million. They want to put up $1 million. I have no interest in it. Which really is going to tell you, Greta, that I'm not going to be controlled. And the reason I don't have interest, if somebody gave me $5 million, whether they put it in a PAC or wherever they give it, but they've been your friend, you're going to be very susceptible when they come in asking you for help with their company, which may be adverse to our country. You're going to be very susceptible to having to do that. And that's not going to happen with me. I will owe nobody. I owe nothing to anybody. And the only one I owe is to the American people. I'm going to do a great job for them. We have to straighten out our country. Our country's a mess. It's a mess. Whether it's trade, whether it's ISIS, whether it's the military, whether it's we don't take care of our vets, or whether it's Obamacare, which is just absolutely collapsing, where rates are going up. It's going up 25, 35, and 45%, and the deductibles are through the roof. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. But I don't have any outside influences, which is good.
One of the things you tweeted about today was the controversy over a Washington Post cartoon of Senator Ted Cruz's children in the cartoon, and they had him, I guess, on the end of a leash, and Senator Ted Cruz is upset. On the flip side, there are a couple things. One is the newspaper all of a sudden taking the cartoon down because they got, I guess they might think they got phone calls from somebody. And the second thing to consider is that Senator Ted Cruz has put his children out front and center in his campaign. They've been in ads. He's mentioned them on the floor. I mean, and yet you think that it's the children totally off this.
Well, in particular, they're 5 and 7 years old, and I think it was inappropriate, and they weren't depicted very nicely, certainly. I mean, it's one thing to talk about your children, but it's another thing the way they were depicted. I won't even mention how they were depicted, but these are two beautiful children, and you just can't do that. So I thought it was very inappropriate, and frankly, a lot of the things that the Washington Post does are inappropriate. It's there for a reason. It was a failing newspaper. A rich guy who has a very big company that needs to continue not paying taxes, very important. And I think it's going to be. I think it's really.
Is it different though? Is it different though? It's one thing if the children aren't part of the campaign, but can he use it sort of as almost like a human shield? He has used his children in the campaign affirmatively.
maybe you can in terms of a newspaper, but you can't depict them as they were depicted. I think that's inappropriate.
Donald, thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope you come back and join us in January. It's going to be a very busy month in politics in January.
It will. Merry Christmas. Thanks a lot, Greta.